Directed by Stephen S. DeKnight, Pacific Rim Uprising is a sequel to the 2013 Guillermo del Toro film, and it stars John Boyega and Scott Eastwood. I just recently, actually, the day that I actually saw this film, I saw the original one, which I hadn't seen before, and it's a fun time. It's actually a lot of fun, very well made movie. You can tell it's a Del Toro film with the colors, with some of the cast choices, the humor, the action. It's a very well made film, especially with the action scenes, which are slow. You can feel the weight of the Jaegers destroying these kaijus. It's a fun film, a lot of fun. And it was not what I expected from how it was marketed and from the premise. And I have to say that this franchise, even though it's just two films, it suffers from the Pitch Perfect effect, which is basically, you have a premise, sounds kinda dumb, you watch the first film and you're like, oh, it's better than I expected. Let's see the sequel. You watch the sequel and it's exactly the shit that you expected the first one to be. And the same happens with Pacific Rim Uprising, unfortunately, because the second film is pretty bad. It's not a good film. It's not terrible, like some people might expect me to say. It's not. It's a blockbuster. It has explosions, it has dumb shit happening, but the main issues compared to the previous one is that, first of all, the actors, the casting, they are just kinda there. Well, they're relatively more likable, I guess, compared to the ones in the first film. There is no emotional attachment, you don't give a fuck about any of them, I'm sorry to say that, but in the first film, even though it is not written in the best way possible, it is relatively self-aware as a film, and the emotional connection between the characters, it's well executed, especially with Miko and Idris Elba's character. That connection was pretty strong in the film, so you don't have that in this. You don't have any emotional baggage or anything interesting going on with the characters. They're pretty bland. And the actors themselves, they are a mixed bag. Like John Boyega does his shtick where he's very fast talking and constantly shouting things and being funny. Scott Eastwood is kinda there, is generic bland man. And I don't think it's really his fault. I think it's just the fault of the movies he's in. What they require out of him is just a pretty face, Clint Eastwood's son, but it still has to wow me in anything. And then we also have this newcomer like Cailee Spaeny, who is this young girl, probably my age. She's a mixed bag as well, and I think the fault is mostly in the direction, because this is one of those films that feels like it's been just directed by itself. It just happened. There isn't a real director, it's just, we have to shoot this, and this, and this. We're done? Okay, add the effects, let's go on. That's how this movie feels. It feels very phoned in from a directing point of view, and compared to the previous one, even the action, the CGI, it's not bad, but there is the lack of weight that the first film had. The movements are too fast, they feel like a real life anime, which is not really a good thing. If for a fan of anime, maybe, but as I've said, the great thing about the first film is that every time they had to lift their hand and punch a kaiju, you felt that movement, you also felt that punch. Here they're doing ninja moves, sliding around, slicing things. They're like, whoa, it's way too fast. You don't feel the weight of these creatures. But yet again, it's not bad action. It's watchable, entertaining for the most part. Even though there isn't enough of it, it has even less action and less interesting action than the first film. And we focus way too much on the characters. And there are twists and turns that make sense. They were also kind of set up in the first film, but they're just not interesting. That's the main fault. It's a boring ass story. It's not terrible, it has a couple of funny moments, but the setup of the jokes doesn't always work. Sometimes there isn't even a setup. The visual gags, they actually repeat some of the ones from the first film, and the entire story, if you look at it, it's almost exactly like the first film. So an accident happened, the main character has to leave, he comes back years later in the Jaeger program, there are creatures coming, they have to defend them, he teams up with a younger person who has troubles with the past. It's the same shit that we actually saw already. So, like, I don't even want to talk about this film. It made me pissed off. Like, really, you feel the absence of Del Toro. He was very excited when the first film came out. He wanted to do a sequel right away. It took 5 years. He had more interesting projects to work on, like Crimson Peak and Shape of Water, the Oscar-winning Shape of Water. So I'm glad that he didn't do this film. He probably didn't even have that much control in the end, so... Guys, I do not recommend Pacific Rim Uprising. It's worth watching at home if you catch it on TV or if they put it on Netflix or other streaming platforms, because otherwise it's not really worth your time. It's okay, watchable. The only really good things are the action, some of the effects, but that's it, unfortunately. But still, guys, have you watched Pacific Rim Uprising and do you like the first film? Tell me in the comments below. Thanks for watching, to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.